Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a book that has sparked countless conversations, debates, and transformations since its release, 12 Rules for Life, by Jordan B. Peterson. Whether you've read it, heard about it, or are entirely new to Peterson's work, this breakdown will explore the depth and nuance of his ideas. We'll unpack each of the 12 rules, their philosophical foundations, and how they interconnect to form a guide for navigating life's chaos. This isn't just a self-help book, it's a fusion of psychology, mythology, and personal responsibility, and we'll take our time to explore why its message resonates so deeply. Let's start by understanding the man behind the book and the cultural moment that inspired it. Before we delve into the rules themselves, it's crucial to grasp the context in which Peterson wrote this book. A clinical psychologist and professor, Peterson spent decades studying the intersection of belief systems, human behavior, and societal structures. 12 Rules for Life emerged during a cultural climate he describes as increasingly fragmented, a time where traditional frameworks for meaning, purpose, and morality were collapsing, leaving many adrift in existential uncertainty. Peterson argues that modernity's emphasis on individualism, while liberating, has also eroded shared values, creating a vacuum filled by anxiety, nihilism, and ideological extremism. His solution? A return to timeless principles, distilled into 12 pragmatic rules, each acting as a compass to navigate the tension between order and chaos. These rules aren't arbitrary, they're rooted in evolutionary biology, classical philosophy, and religious allegory, particularly the stories of the Bible, which Peterson interprets as psychological archetypes. This blend of science and spirituality forms the backbone of his approach, aiming to help individuals build resilience, cultivate meaning, and confront suffering with dignity. The central theme, order versus chaos. At the heart of 12 Rules for Life lies a fundamental duality, order and chaos. Peterson frames these as the two primordial forces governing existence. Order represents structure, predictability, and safety, the realm of rules, traditions, and societal norms. Chaos, conversely, is the unknown, uncertainty, suffering, and the potential for both disaster and transformation. Peterson argues that a meaningful life requires balancing these forces. Too much order leads to rigidity and tyranny, too much chaos breeds instability and despair. Each rule, in its own way, teaches us to stand firmly at the intersection, to embrace responsibility without succumbing to dogma, and to remain open to growth without losing ourselves in ambiguity. This theme isn't just philosophical, it's deeply personal. Peterson draws on clinical anecdotes and historical events to illustrate how individuals and societies oscillate between these extremes, often with catastrophic consequences. The rules, then, are tools to stabilize that oscillation, offering a path to what Peterson calls bearing the weight of the world without being crushed by it. The first rule, stand up straight with your shoulders back, serves as both literal and metaphorical advice. On the surface, it's about posture, a physical manifestation of confidence that signals readiness to face the world. Peterson links this to the biological concept of dominance hierarchies, observed even in lobsters, where posture dictates social standing. But this rule transcends biology. It's about confronting life's inherent suffering without resignation. Peterson argues that adopting a posture of resilience, literally and figuratively, alters how we perceive challenges and how others perceive us. It's a rejection of victimhood, an assertion of agency in a world that often feels oppressive. By standing tall, we communicate competence to ourselves and others, which in turn opens doors to opportunity and respect. This isn't about arrogance, it's about recognizing your inherent worth and refusing to shrink from life's demands. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Rule 2. Shifts the focus inward, addressing a paradox Peterson observed in his clinical practice. People often show more compassion to others than to themselves. We meticulously care for pets, children, or friends, yet neglect our own physical, emotional, and psychological needs. Peterson ties this to humanity's capacity for self-consciousness and guilt, which can distort self-perception. He argues that self-neglect isn't humility, it's a failure to recognize your own value. To treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping means extending the same kindness, discipline, and forgiveness to yourself that you'd offer others. This involves setting boundaries, pursuing goals that align with your deepest values, and confronting self-destructive behaviors. Peterson frames this as a moral obligation. You cannot contribute to the world if you're depleted, resentful, or trapped in cycles of shame. This rule is a call to reconcile self-love with responsibility, understanding that caring for oneself isn't selfish, it's foundational to caring for anything else. Make friends with people who want the best for you. Rule 3 tackles the profound influence of social circles on our lives. Peterson warns against the temptation to rescue those who aren't committed to their own improvement. While compassion is virtuous, he argues that aligning with individuals who perpetuate dysfunction, whether through addiction, cynicism, or manipulation, can drag you into their chaos. This isn't about abandoning struggling people, but recognizing that growth requires mutual effort. Surrounding yourself with those who want the best for you creates an environment where accountability, encouragement, and upward momentum thrive. Peterson delves into the psychology of codependency, illustrating how misplaced loyalty to toxic relationships stifles potential. He advocates for discernment. Friendships should inspire, challenge, and elevate, not breed resentment or stagnation. This rule underscores a harsh truth: you cannot change others, but you can choose who walks beside you on your journey, and that choice shapes your destiny. Rule 4 compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. In a hyperconnected world, comparison is inevitable and corrosive. Rule 4 addresses the trap of measuring your worth against others' achievements, appearances, or social media personas. Peterson argues that this habit breeds envy, insecurity, and a paralyzing sense of inadequacy. Instead, he urges a shift in focus: compete with your past self. Progress, no matter how incremental, is the true metric of growth. This requires brutal self-honesty, acknowledging flaws without self-flagellation, and setting achievable goals that align with your values. Peterson ties this to the concept of meaning, suggesting that fulfillment comes not from surpassing others, but from transcending your own limitations. By concentrating on daily improvements, you build momentum, resilience, and a sense of agency. This rule isn't a rejection of ambition, but a recalibration of it, emphasizing personal evolution over external validation. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Rule 5 shifts the focus to parenting, though its implications stretch far beyond raising children. Peterson argues that permissive parenting, allowing children to act in ways that erode respect or empathy, does them no favors. Children, he suggests, crave boundaries because structure provides a sense of safety and teaches them how to navigate societal expectations. When parents fail to discipline, they inadvertently foster behaviors that make their children unlikable, even to themselves. This isn't about authoritarian control, but about guiding young people to become individuals others want to engage with. Peterson ties this to broader societal health. Children raised without accountability grow into adults who struggle with responsibility, collaboration, and self-regulation. The rule underscores a tough love philosophy. True care involves saying no when necessary, instilling habits of respect, and preparing children to contribute positively to the world. It's a call to parents to confront the discomfort of enforcing limits, recognizing that short-term conflict can prevent long-term dysfunction. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Rule 6 challenges the impulse to blame external forces, systems, governments, or other people for personal suffering. Peterson doesn't dismiss societal flaws but insists that meaningful change begins with self-correction. Setting your house in order means auditing your life, addressing resentments, repairing relationships, quitting destructive habits, and fulfilling basic responsibilities. This isn't a call for perfection but for incremental progress. Peterson argues that chaos in the outer world often mirrors chaos within, and attempting to fix society while ignoring personal failings is hypocritical and ineffective. He draws on existentialist thought, emphasizing that freedom and meaning arise from taking radical responsibility for your circumstances. By starting small, cleaning your room, literally and metaphorically, you cultivate the discipline and clarity needed to engage with larger injustices. This rule is an antidote to nihilism. Even in a flawed world, your actions matter, and transformation starts locally. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Rule 7 confronts one of modernity's great pitfalls: the prioritization of short-term gratification over long-term purpose. Peterson contrasts expediency, choosing the easiest path, with meaning, which often requires sacrifice and delayed rewards. He traces this back to ancient myths, like the story of Adam and Eve, where impulsive decisions lead to suffering. Modern life, with its instant fixes and distractions, amplifies this temptation. Pursuing meaning, however, means embracing struggle, committing to relationships, careers, or ideals that demand patience and resilience. Peterson ties this to the concept of sacrifice, arguing that relinquishing immediate desires for higher goals is what elevates humans above mere survival. This rule isn't about rejecting joy but recognizing that fulfillment comes from investing in what truly matters, even when it's hard. It's a rejection of cynicism, urging us to aim for something grander than comfort. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Rule 8 delves into the moral and psychological weight of honesty. Peterson posits that lying, even in small ways, corrodes integrity and distorts reality. Every falsehood, he argues, is a betrayal of your own values and a step into self-deception. Over time, lies compound, creating a fragmented existence where you no longer trust yourself or others. Truth-telling, conversely, aligns actions with beliefs, fostering coherence and trust. Peterson acknowledges the risk: honesty can provoke conflict or vulnerability. But he frames truth as a bulwark against chaos, a way to confront the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. This rule extends beyond speech. It's about living authentically, refusing to distort your identity to please others or avoid discomfort. In a culture of spin and superficiality, Peterson champions truth as rebellion, a way to reclaim agency in a dishonest world. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. Rule 9 is a masterclass in humility and dialogue. Peterson critiques the modern tendency to approach conversations as battles to be won, rather than opportunities to learn. True listening, he argues, requires suspending ego, acknowledging that others, even those we disagree with, hold pieces of wisdom we lack. This doesn't mean abandoning critical thinking, but entering discussions with curiosity rather than defensiveness. Peterson ties this to the Socratic method. Through questioning and openness, we refine our own beliefs and uncover shared truths. He also highlights the therapeutic power of being heard. Validating others' experiences builds bridges and diffuses conflict. In an age of polarization, this rule is a radical act. It asks us to replace certainty with curiosity, recognizing that growth happens at the edge of what we already know. Be precise in your speech. Rule 10 emphasizes the link between clarity of language and clarity of thought. Peterson warns against vagueness, using generalizations, clichés, or euphemisms to avoid confronting reality. Precise speech forces us to articulate problems specifically, making them manageable. For example, saying "I'm overwhelmed" is less useful than identifying "I'm neglecting my health because I'm working 70-hour weeks." This precision isn't just practical, it's ethical. Fuzzy language allows denial and moral evasion, whereas specificity demands accountability. Peterson connects this to conflict resolution. Unresolved issues fester when left unspoken, but naming them accurately creates pathways for resolution. In a broader sense, this rule is about reclaiming language as a tool for truth, not manipulation. It's a call to think deeply, speak carefully, and refuse to hide behind ambiguity. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. Rule 11, perhaps the most controversial, critiques overprotective tendencies in modern culture. Peterson uses skateboarding, a risky, creative activity, as a metaphor for allowing exploration and resilience. He argues that shielding young people from all risk stifles their ability to confront challenges, develop competence, and build confidence. This isn't endorsing recklessness, but recognizing that growth requires friction. Skateboarding, with its scrapes and failures, teaches problem-solving, courage, and the joy of mastery. Peterson extends this to societal trends like safe spaces, warning that excessive protection cultivates fragility. The rule advocates for balance, provide guidance, but let individuals test their limits. Trust in their capacity to navigate adversity, even if it means occasional failure. It's a plea to respect agency, both in children and adults, and to recognize that meaning often emerges from struggle. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. The final rule is a gentle reminder to embrace moments of simple joy amid life's burdens. Peterson shares a poignant anecdote about his daughter's chronic illness and how small acts of beauty, like petting a cat, anchored him during despair. This rule isn't about escapism but about balance. Even in suffering, we can, and must, notice goodness. Peterson ties this to the concept of gratitude, arguing that appreciating fleeting moments of peace fortifies us against chaos. It's also a metaphor for accepting life's limitations. We can't fix everything, but we can choose where to direct our attention. In a world obsessed with productivity and grand ambitions, Rule 12 is a call to humility and presence. It's a final lesson in resilience. Light exists alongside darkness, and recognizing both is key to enduring. Conclusion: the weight of the world and the path forward. Visual: slow zoom out from the book cover as the narrator speaks. So, what do these 12 rules collectively offer? Peterson's work isn't a checklist for happiness, but a manifesto for bearing life's inevitable suffering with purpose and grace. Each rule interweaves personal responsibility with existential insight, urging us to confront chaos without losing sight of order. In a culture that often prioritizes rights over duties, Peterson reframes virtue as a daily practice: small, consistent acts of courage, honesty, and care that compound into a meaningful life. Critics argue his ideas are overly rigid or nostalgic, but supporters see them as a corrective to modern aimlessness. Whether you agree with him or not, 12 Rules for Life undeniably challenges readers to ask, what could I fix in my life today? How might I shoulder my burdens more wisely? The book's power lies not in providing easy answers, but in reigniting the ancient quest for a life well lived. Thanks for joining me in this deep dive. If you found it valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep seeking truth and meaning, and maybe pet a cat along the way.